What's going on everyone, it's your boy Alex here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Chainsaw Man chapter 133. Alright, so the chapter picks up with Denji, who's now free as a bird, and Yoshida sitting at a restaurant on a terrace. And it seems a bit of time has actually passed because we learn a bit more of the state of Japan in the world of Chainsaw Man, and it isn't good. According to Yoshida, there are civilians now who are calling for public safety to treat Chainsaw Man as a devil and put him down. And this is so ironic considering Chainsaw Man at the beginning of part 2 of the story was considered a national hero after defeating the gun devil and multiple other devils with merchandise of him being sold to the public. And now he's being universally hated by the general public, and when you get down to it, it isn't wrong considering the amount of collateral damage that Denji actually causes when he's fighting the devils. I mean, you could argue that had Denji not attempted to stop the fallen devil from taking Asa, Tokyo wouldn't be nearly as destroyed as it is now. And when Denji asks why they don't like Chainsaw Man despite all the good that he's done for humanity, Yoshida just answers back simply because they don't like him. And now it seems that a separate group that is established last chapter by Haruka, the followers of the Chainsaw Man Church, are fighting the protesters. And this group is a group dedicated into following Chainsaw Man and following the way of Chainsaw Man, which isn't bad because Denji has done a lot of good for Japan. But I'm getting this group will eventually evolve into more of a cult, and seeing how the Famine Devil is the one pulling the strings behind the scenes, it can't be any good considering how she did directly cause the state the world is currently in. And as all of this is going on, Denji's only comment is that it feels great that people are fighting over him, which is so Denji. And Yoshida goes on to explain that in the early days of the Chainsaw Man Church, it had consisted largely of Chainsaw Man fans and victims of devil attacks. But in the recent times, the group has grown into a massive number of young people who are joining just for the heck of joining it, with the membership of the church now reaching over 20,000. And concerns behind this mainly stem from politicians who are now starting to contribute to the resources to the church, and the fact that many of the younger members who are high schoolers will eventually be old enough to vote, which obviously would threaten the stability of Japan and the status quo that they have there. We're just seemingly hanging on a cliff because at the beginning of part 2, people were protesting against Chainsaw Man and were already divided over him and the government for not doing enough to combat the devils. And in part 1, it was revealed by public safety with their conversation with Makima that the world was in a state of a cold war between the major powers, and that the general public doesn't actually know about it. Not to mention that Makima was the one who was controlling the Prime Minister of Japan, and there's no telling what she could have done to destabilize the country to make her transition into the ruler of the world a lot easier. Because on the surface things seem fine, but slowly the truth is beginning to reveal itself, and it isn't pretty. Yoshida goes on to comment that if the Chainsaw Man Church grows large enough, there could be a chance of a major conflict caused by the Chainsaw Man Church, possibly against the Japanese government. At least it's foreshadowed that's what could happen. And Denji not really caring about any of this, just as what he has to do to save NAYUTA's and the dogs again, considering that Yoshida is holding them hostage. And Yoshida straight up tells Denji in a kind way that he doesn't want to transform into Chainsaw Man ever again, which Denji replies back with hell no, because being Chainsaw Man is part of the reason why Denji wants to live in the first place. And Yoshida says the coldest line in this chapter with just no chill at all, and says that if he keeps turning into Chainsaw Man, he'll be showing Denji NAYUTA's corpse. And this absolutely caught me off guard that Yoshida would say something like that with a smile on his face no less, and this leaves Denji speechless. And Yoshida goes on to say that he heard that Denji wanted to live a normal life, and this is his last chance of him being able to fulfill his dream and live a normal life as a human with NAYUTA and the dogs, where he can just go to school and be a regular teenager. And Yoshida even offers to hang out with Denji as a friend, which is absolutely hilarious that he would even say this, especially after he kidnaps Denji and threatened to murder the one last person in the world who cares about him. And Denji's reaction to this really does display this trauma, because even after hearing all this, Denji still wants to be Chainsaw Man. He still wants to be loved and valued by everyone. And this really does stem from Denji's past when you get down to it, because no one ever valued Denji or treated him as a human. His father abused him to the point where he was forced to kill him in self-defense. People wouldn't even speak to Denji and viewed him as lesser than human as a child, and likely at school as well. Makima had literally convinced Denji that he didn't deserve to live as a normal human being and experience a normal life. That, and she never cared for him from the very beginning. And Rize, the first girl that Denji ever had a crush on, in Denji's eyes only valued him for his heart, not as Denji, but well, for Pochita. And the result of all of this is really just a broken teenage boy whose self-worth is so low, he either doesn't view himself as a human anymore, or he doesn't believe that Denji the person deserves to actually be happy. Because no one has ever valued Denji, and anyone he ever got close to ended up dying a horrible death, like Aki in Power, whose death still haunt Denji to this day, and I'm betting he no doubt does feel incredible guilt towards it. Yoshida then reveals that he's working for public safety and likely the Japanese government, since it stated that public safety would kill NAYUTA if Denji didn't cooperate, and it is in the Japanese government's best interest to actually go on ahead and try to intimidate Denji into working with them in order to actually keep the status quo. And despite hearing this, Denji won't stop being Chainsaw Man and wants people to fight for him, not understanding the implications of what this could mean for the entire country. Which leads Yoshida to give Denji the ultimatum of choosing between NAYUTA's life and his greedy desires. And Denji, being Denji, chooses both options of letting NAYUTA die and being Chainsaw Man. And when Yoshida pushes the fact on Denji, he actually screams out for the protesters to attack Yoshida, which is absolutely hilarious. And we see Yoshida for the first time breaks his character and his composure and begins sweating out of frustration. It says a line most of us were thinking when we were reading this chapter, that Denji is even dumber than we all initially thought he was. And before things can get any uglier, NAYUTA and the dogs and Maori scream out for Denji's name, and Denji and NAYUTA embrace each other. And what I like about this scene is the fact that Denji is living up to his promise not only to Pochita of giving NAYUTA lots of hugs, but Kishibe's promise of raising NAYUTA differently from Makima. Because here we see NAYUTA really doesn't not only love Denji, but sees Denji for Denji. She isn't just identifying him by his smell, but she actually is seeing him as a person. And as this happy reunion is going on, Yoshida scolds the public safety devil hunter who let her go, which is absolutely hilarious because the guy is clearly lost in the sauce, but shout out to him for letting NAYUTA go. And Yoshida at this point, who is completely bewildered, doesn't understand why Denji didn't choose to live a happy life with NAYUTA, which is ironic considering before Yoshida had expressed to Asa that living the lonely life of solitude was the best option and the option he himself preferred. But now, it almost seems like Yoshida may actually be jealous of Denji having a family who loves and values him. At least it definitely did feel that way. And just before Denji and NAYUTA leave, Yoshida warns Denji one last time that if he turns into Chainsaw Man, public safety will kill NAYUTA. And NAYUTA's response is hilarious. She tells Denji to tell this guy to F off. And the chapter ends with NAYUTA and Denji going home and Yoshida questioning if Denji even understood the implications of his actions and what he's trying to tell Denji. And that is how the chapter ends. This was an interesting chapter given that it was a really Denji-centered chapter that set up his character arc for part 2, but showed us that Denji's actions as Chainsaw Man really are having major consequences on the world, and if Denji can't understand what he's doing and the damage it could bring, it could cause serious damage not only to Japan, but potentially the entire world, even more than it already is. And it also raises even more questions around Yoshida and public safety. At least for me, because it doesn't make any sense why public safety would try to control Denji, at least not in this way. I mean, if they kill NAYUTA, it would only cause Pochita to spawn in, and the Nostradamus prophecy would be the last thing they would need to worry about since now there is absolutely no one on Earth who could actually stop Pochita if he went on a rampage. And if anything, you would think public safety and Yoshida would be after Asa, especially since the famine double is after her and she may be humanity's only hope of survival. If anything, this chapter only does establish in a way that Kishibe is likely MIA or might even be dead, because if he was involved in public safety still, you would think that they would send him to talk to Denji, considering that Kishibe is probably the closest thing to a father figure Denji ever had, and he's one of the few people that he likely does trust and would take advice from. But let me know guys, what you guys thought of this chapter? Why do you think Yoshida cares so much about Denji transforming into Chainsaw Man? I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts, but yeah, with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching another one of my Chainsaw Man chapter reviews. This is Alex, and I'm signing out.